The battle begins. Trump threatens, Tehran taunts back. Iran vows strike, not surrender. US eyes bunker buster response. What will Donald Trump do? Will he strike or stand down?
Good evening and welcome to 5 Live. I'm Pooja, Shali. Thank you for tuning in. It's the 6th day of the West Asia conflict, so to say. But is it time that USA also going to get directly involved against Iran in support of Israel? We have that and more. First, the headlines. Let's begin. Prime Minister Modi dials Donald Trump, calls USA truce as bluff. 35 minutes of Modi plain speak for Trump in that conversation. Modi's big message to the US president. USA had no role in the truce. Prime Minister Modi also rejecting a stopover in America after Trump appears to have requested Prime Minister Modi to meet him on the way back to India.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप को स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि इस पूरे घटनाक्रम के दौरान कभी भी किसी भी स्तर पर भारत अमेरिका ट्रेड डील या अमेरिका द्वारा भारत और पाकिस्तान के बीच मध्यस्थता जैसे विषयों पर बात नहीं हुई थी.
Meanwhile, it's tonight Donald Trump to host Pakistan's jihadi General Asim Munir for lunch, days after Trump family was linked to a certain crypto deal in Pakistan. Questions of conflict of interest raised, and now amid the war clouds between Iran and Israel, Pakistan Army Chief Field Marshal Munir visiting the USA. Is it now time for the improvement of relationship between India and Canada? Canada to move to appoint high commissioners again. Prime Minister Mark Carney responds to India Today question of the India-Canada ties here on.
I think the meeting today was important, but I would describe it as foundational, as a necessary first step, an exchange of views, frank, open exchange of views around law enforcement, transnational repression as two examples, an agreement to provide the necessary foundations to begin to rebuild a relationship.
As Prime Minister Modi met world leaders on the sidelines of the G7 summit, Team Melody met again. Georgia Melanie praising Prime Minister Modi, calls him the best, says trying to become like him. Prime Minister Modi also meets Macron, laughter, hugs and smiles, and then says, "You're going viral these days," to Macron.
As always, you are the best. I'm trying to be as you know it. Excuse me.
In other news, the crashed Air India aircraft's engine was replaced 3 months ago. That's a big news that Business Today television is bringing to you. Now central to the investigation, Dreamliner had last undergone a detailed maintenance check in June 2023. Sixth day of the West Asia conflict between Iran and Israel, and now dragging in Donald Trump as well. USA is demanding complete surrender from Iran. But the Iranian regime, led by Khamenei, has warned of a full-scale war if America intervenes. Here's the latest report of what's happening between Iran and Israel, and does this mean other countries would likely get involved too, and very soon?
Another day of escalating Israel-Iran conflict. Both nations have made their intent clear. They will be relentless not to be on the back foot. Israel continues to batter targets across Iran. Israeli army struck a nuclear facility used to manufacture centrifuges in Tehran. The facility was used to expand the scale and speed of its uranium enrichment. In the counter-strike, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps launched hypersonic Fateh-1 missiles at Israel.
عملیاتی که تاکنون اجرا شده صرفاً هشدار برای بازدارندگی بوده است و عملیات تنبیهی به زودی اجرا خواهد شد. به جد به ساکنین سرزمین‌های اشغالی به ویژه تل‌آویو و حیفا هشدار داده می‌شود برای حفظ جان خود این مناطق رو ترک کنند و خودشون رو قربانی امیال حیوانی نتانیاهو نکنند.
We are now on day 5 of Operation Rising Lion. We've struck deep, hitting Iran's nuclear, ballistic, and command capabilities. The Iranian regime has spent years getting closer to a nuclear weapon. They have spent billions building a ballistic missile program. Our mission is clear: to remove the threat at its source. We are aiming at military targets. They are attacking civilian homes. The IDF will continue to operate with precision, strength, and resolve to ensure the safety of the people of Israel.
Amid the full-scale escalations, Israel is reportedly running low on defense Arrow missile interceptors, which are crucial to counter barrage of Iranian missile strikes. A day earlier, Trump had asked the Iranian regime for an unconditional surrender. In his retort, Iran's supreme leader said the war has just begun, indicating that Iran is not going to give in. Iran also made it clear that any intervention would be a recipe for an all-out war. America has mobilized more war assets in the Middle East, sending its fighter jets to active duty near bases close to the Persian Gulf. All eyes are now on America's next move. Is this pointing at a much wider war? Bureau Report, India Today.
So here's what I want to bring to your notice, viewer, that remember, USA is not involved in any way right now, not with regard to military or even political support. Right now, the support is only in words from the USA. But why is then Donald Trump making the kind of statements against Iran? What has Donald Trump said and what has Iran said in return to it? Donald Trump was one of the first to say Iranian regime must surrender. Basically, that's a reference to Ali Khamenei, who's the supreme leader of Iran. To that, there was also now a difference when it comes to how the international community is responding. The G7 group has been very categorical in their support to Israel, called Iran a sponsor of terror. But there's been a change now. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, has said to Trump's statement, the regime change can unleash chaos. This is a big statement. This in many ways is also between Donald Trump and a European leader. Till now, remember, it appeared all of them were on the same stage. Is this a reflection of differences? What happens? Donald Trump also then went on to add, and this got personal, Macron is publicity-seeking president. These were unprecedented words from a US president. This was in turn when Macron had said there could be a ceasefire and our countries are involved in it, especially the USA. The USA said there is no ceasefire. I'm in no way involved with the truce because something big is coming up. That is when Macron has now added that Trump had that stand, but that shifted on Iran after the G7 meeting. So this is what is between Macron and Trump right now. This is interesting and huge. Remember, this is because while the G7 countries are on the same page for Israel against Iran, but it looks like the international community is slightly divided as well. I want to bring in Shivani Sharma on that. Shivani, so would that be a correct question to ask that while they appear to be together, with the regime change that appears to be a certain proposition now that has come in from Trump, is reflective of the differences between the Western nations?
Suddenly, Pooja, there seems to be a divide among these nations, and the G7 nations, they had come out with a statement condemning whatever Iran was doing, and they also had said that Israel has all the right for self-defense. But after yesterday, the equation seems to have changed because, the French president is now claiming that after meeting the G7 leaders, it seems that Donald Trump has changed his mind because he was about to reach back because of the ceasefire. That's the justification he's giving now after the statements of Donald Trump had come that Macron is publicity seeking leader And now, not only this, Pooja, Emmanuel Macron is also saying that a regime change attempt can lead to more violence, and that should not be attempted. That means he is against the whole action that's taking place, the whole military operation that's taking place from Israel. But Israel has to say that it did not start the operation with an intent to change the supreme leader or to change the regime. It started with a operation to dismantle the nuclear capabilities of Iran, I'm sorry, because they were quite close to completion and they were against Israel. So there is a divide, definitely, as you also pointed out, and the statements that are coming in from Macron and Donald Trump, they seem that there are not only tensions between the nations, but now the nations are also on a divide. Regarding this
clearly,
whole
at least the French president and the US president have a difference of opinion about what this war can lead to, even if they support Israel. Stay on with me, because in the center of the controversy is the Iranian nation, and we want to get in some breaking news that's coming in. Khamenei has spoken, and how? The latest statement that has come in from Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, and he says that the nation is steadfast and brave, and timely behavior in the face of the Zionist regime's aggression. Americans should know, I quote him here, Americans should know that the Iranian nation cannot be surrendered by any military intervention by them, and will undoubtedly cause irreparable damage. This is a televised message that has come in this afternoon from Iran's supreme leader, who's about 86 years of age, and he has basically targeted the Zionist enemy, referring to Israel here, but also in many ways saying that the Iranian nation stands firm against an imposed war, against an imposed peace, and this nation will not surrender in the face of the kind of aggression that's coming in. So remember, while the target is clearly against the US, against Israel, but there is a reflection when it comes to the USA as well. So right now, of course, the targeting by the supreme leader says that threatening and ridiculous statements by the US president will also be countered, and how? This is a big statement. This is the latest. I want to quote here what Khamenei has said. The US president threatens us with his absurd rhetoric. He demands that the Iranian people surrender to him. They should make threats against those who are afraid of being threatened. Iranian nation isn't frightened by such threats. So huge statements, provocative in nature, in return saying we are strong, and targeting directly with regard to Israel and the United States of America. Remember, USA is not involved via military in this war, but definitely with regard to words right now and support to Israel. So right now, this is the latest statement. Khamenei has spoken up. Remember, the world is watching and tracking this specific development. Shivani Sharma joins us. Shivani, these are strong words. And we have seen how Khamenei has constantly attacked Israel, calling them the Zionist regime an enemy, and of course now bringing in and dragging in the United States of America too.
Pooja, it seems to be the answer to the warnings that were coming in from United States President Donald Trump, where he had called for an unconditional surrender by the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. And now, not only this is not the first time, and he has reacted after US President Donald Trump's Truth Social post. In the morning also, we were reporting about how Khamenei has said that the war has just begun now. This is the beginning of the war. So no sign of de-escalation, no signs of bowing down, but yes, provoking once again and giving out signals that Iran is not ready to de-escalate. It is not going to take any kind of threats or warnings that come in from Israel or from United States, but it is prepared for more action with more missile salvos that are directed towards Israel. So, Pooja, we have to watch, because it seems that this war will be escalating with the involvement of United States, though not directly right now. But yes, the assets have already started mobilizing. And for we must tell our viewers that United States already has a huge number of deployment in terms of its troops, in terms of its aircraft, the tanker refuelers, the aircraft carrier, including USS Nimitz in the Middle East area proximity. So these warnings coming in from both sides are quite signaling that this whole conflict is going to get wider.
So this is a huge statement that has come in from Iran's supreme leader. Shivani, thank you for now, because I want to tell the viewer how Iran is responding to especially Donald Trump's words and Israel strikes. Amid the ongoing threats and strikes by Israel specifically, listen carefully. Handles on social media associated with Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei has said, look at this image, the battle begins. This is no ordinary image of a war zone. This is a direct religious reference that Khamenei has brought in, not just as nation, a modern nation of Iran. This statement, you must know, invokes powerful Islamic symbolism of Haider and Zulfikar. It refers to the first Shia Imam Ali and his legendary sword. This is in reference to the Battle of Khyber. We are talking about 7th century clash, which was primarily fought between the Jewish tribes and the Muslims. Attack was at a fortified Jewish stronghold back then. That is why you see these castle gates, forts like one of these that you see in the image. The battle was eventually won, according to history, according to Islamic history, by the Muslim army. So this image and the statement, therefore, is also a connotation to the modern day Jewish majority Israel and Muslim majority Iran. Then another statement came in from that handle associated with Khamenei. We must give a strong response to the terror Zionist regime, and we will show the Zionists no mercy. So clearly quoting from the Islamic history, Khamenei is coming forth to say about what Israel can expect and therefore the United States of America too. So this is how precisely at this juncture, a very sensitive stage, that the West Asia conflict stands and which other country will jump in or get dragged in one way or another. Now I want to tell you what the USA is up to. USA keeps saying we are not involved in this war. We are not going to have our weapons and equipment be used. But the United States of America, apart from their president giving statements, is mobilizing assets in the Middle East, in the region. What kind of assets and deployments are we talking about? Take a look at this. 3 aircraft carriers that I mentioned here. USS Thomas Hudner, USS Nimitz, and USS Carl Vinson have been deployed and, of course, are on standby right now. But there have been additional fighter jets that have been mobilized and deployed to the F-16, F-22, and F-35 as well. By now, of course, remember, in the conflicts that we have covered, these have become significant mentions as well. But in that region, this could be very sensitive and on standby as and when, if required, to be used. There's an extended deployment of warplanes as well vis-a-vis the United States of America. There are air refueling tankers as well that have come in. KC-135, KC-46, B-2 stealth bombers. B-2 stealth bombers that have been positioned already that we are looking at. Remember, these tankers primarily have been in countries in Europe, not exactly right next to possibly Israel or in that area. However, this is all in connection just if required. And that raises a question of what the USA is up to. On that note, I want to bring in India Today senior journalist joining me, Sandeep Unnithan, for the latest on that. Sandeep, you tell me, what do you make of this movement, this deployment, while the USA keeps saying, we are not getting involved in this war?
Well, Pooja, if you look at what the US has been saying so far, Pete Hegseth has said that all of these are defensive capabilities that the US is moving into the region. And if you look at these, the assets that you just mentioned, it's a formidable raft of capabilities that the US has brought into CENTCOM area of responsibility. There is one carrier strike group already in the Arabian Sea, that's the USS Carl Vinson. A second carrier strike group, the USS Nimitz, is being rerouted from the South China Sea. It should be reaching there in the next couple of days. You have B-2s and B-52s already in position in Diego Garcia, that's about 4,000 kilometers south of Iran in the Indian Ocean. And the most important thing, Pooja, is the fact that something like 20 US refueling tankers of the kind that we see on screen right now have been shifted from Europe into the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. Now, each of those tankers is towing something like 3 or 4 fighter jets. Wow. And these fighter jets are F-35s, F-16s, F-15s. All of these are strike aircraft which the US is pre-positioning into West Asia. It's a very large grouping of forces. You're talking of potentially hundreds of carrier strike aircraft, bombers, and of course fighter jets that are moving in. One possible reason for all of this, Pooja, is the fact that the US fears retaliatory strikes from Iran on US bases in West Asia. Now, the US has bases in 8 principal bases across West Asia. They have bases in Iraq, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, all across the GCC countries. And the fear is that if Israeli strikes keep up at the pace at which they are against Iran, Iran could unleash its hypersonic missiles against these US bases. And there is no real big missile defense capability that the United States has to protect all of these bases. It can possibly protect a few of them. It can't protect all of them. And that is what the fear is, that Iran could, if it is pushed to the wall, unleash its hypersonic missiles to try and expand the conflict and draw more countries into it. But as of now, the conflict is primarily between Iran and Israel. And the US is literally this big 500-pound, strongman that's sitting on the fence and waiting and watching. We don't know if this was part of the plan or this is something called mission creep, where you start your operations with one set of objectives, and as the operations progress, you start changing your objectives mid-course. It's quite possible that the US sees a window of opportunity here where Iran is completely defenseless. It has no ground-based air defenses, and they could just make the move, go in and destroy their nuclear capabilities once and for all. Pooja.
Stay on with me, Sandeep, because I want to come to you again with what possibly can happen. I want to quote from what the New York Times has published this morning. Could it become USA versus Iran? There have been intel inputs that have been picked up by American officials. Sources are telling international newspapers that Iran readies missile strikes. If the USA decides to strike directly into Iranian territory, there could be retaliatory attacks expected against the USA. What does that mean? That one, of course, will be Iran military directly getting involved. Then there could be also Houthi militia threatening already the Red Sea shipping. But remember, at this juncture, Iran-backed forces are ready to disrupt maritime routes, American ships that are in the Red Sea, and that could disrupt a massive international transportation plan. American forces are also on high alert. There are commanders and who have been on highest priority alert right now, looking at how the situation unfolds. Dozens of US tanker aircraft have been deployed to Europe right now, again on standby. American commanders are bracing already for a wider war concerns mounting over possible US involvement in this Israel-Iran conflict. A quick question there, Sandeep, to you about how do you see this panning out in the days to come? I understand it's still a developing story, but we're talking about an 86-year-old Khamenei. We need a successor for Iran. Then at this juncture, their commanders have been wiped off, their facilities have been targeted. How prepared do you think Iran really is, or is this just about a bluff on their words?
Well, Pooja, Iran, the present regime came to power in 1979, early 1979, Ayatollah Khamenei's revolution. Since then, in the last 45 years, this is the gravest threat to Iran that it's faced in these 45 years. Never has the regime of Iran been so isolated and so mercilessly pounded from the air as it is being today by Israel. So it's a dilemma for Khamenei, and he's, as you pointed out, he's 86 years old. He does not have a clear successor. His military command and control is completely disrupted. Commanders have been killed. Scientists have been killed. There is complete chaos in Iran at the moment. So we really don't know what the Iranian regime could do. They don't have nuclear weapons. That is a fact. And they could actually be, a section within Iran which would actually say that we should have maybe gone in for those nuclear weapons. We would not have possibly seen this date. But that is precisely the reason that Israel is striking at Iran, Pooja. I mean, Israel is one country that will not allow any Arab country or any Muslim country in the region to have nuclear weapons, because this directly threatens their existence. They've done this in the past. They've done it with Iraq in 1981. They've done it with Syria in 2007. And now what we are seeing today is the defangment, the nuclear defangment of Iran, to ensure that it cannot produce nuclear weapons, at least in the short term, in the next decade or so, to threaten Israel directly. Israel has, of course, carried out these attacks today. They've destroyed the facilities, as you just informed viewers, to, the centrifuge making facilities in Tehran have been destroyed. They've attacked Natanz, which is a very crucial uranium enrichment facility. But of course, that big problem that Israel faces is the Fordo enrichment plant, which is deep underground in Pars province southeast of Tehran. That is the big nut that Israel has not been able to crack, for which it needs the United States. And it's quite possible, Pooja, that the United States could possibly sneak in, attack those targets, not claim credit for it, give Israel all credit for destroying that facility. But that is when Iran enters the picture. And that kind of explains why Supreme Leader Khamenei has made that statement that we will retaliate if the United States enters that war.
And that is a big if, that only days to come will be able to read. But I also have to say, compared to the conflicts in the past few years that we have seen, there is a lack of clarity, there is complete uncertainty, and of course the unpredictable nature of Donald Trump that's adding on to the current status and what's unfolding between Iran and Israel. We'll be tracking that and more. Sandeep, thank you very much for your expertise and perspective. Remember, India is also involved in this, involved in the manner that we have our nationals, our professionals and students who've been stranded in Iran. India has initiated the evacuation mission. And I'm very happy to mention here, because these are under difficult circumstances, over 110 Indian students, especially from medical universities, and most of them are from the Kashmir Valley, others from different states as well, have been able to successfully cross the border, the land border, into Armenia. Remember, there is right now bombing and strikes happening, and yet our External Affairs Ministry and the coordination, of course, with the Iranian ambassadors have been able to take care and keep our people safe. As per the MEA, all tickets have been arranged free of cost by the Indian government. Tickets from Delhi to Srinagar are also being arranged to ensure a smooth and complete journey home for the students of the valley. Now, here's how it's going to pan out. The students depart from the Yerevan airport. Then they fly to Doha. From Doha, they will board a connecting flight to Delhi and then to their respective cities. All of this is being managed, and this is, of course, after being able to bring them out of Tehran, specifically to Qom, and then across the border. Massive missions, and Indian government making it look very easy at this juncture. First set of evacuated students from Iran depart for Delhi. The latest visuals on your screen. Good to see at least over 100 young students who were studying. These were medical students in the university in Tehran. They've been able to board from Armenia to Doha, then Doha to New Delhi. That's the image on your screen. It's an Indigo aircraft. Relief for many students, especially from J&K. We're told 90 students are from the Kashmir Valley. They'll arrive in New Delhi tonight amid the evacuation operation that's been facilitated by the GOI, especially the MEA. The students have also acknowledged the support of the government of the centre, especially Prime Minister Modi and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. I'm quoting from the statement that has come in from the government. Remember, this is reassuring to the anxious families. These are 19, 20, 21-year-olds who've been studying in Tehran, in different parts of Iran, in fact, not just medical studies, but religious institutions as well. And that is why now that they're returning, it will be a sigh of relief for many families across the country, but especially in J&K. So that's the first visual on your screen, them boarding safely out of Iran, the government managing to make it possible despite bombing and strikes. Shreya Chatterjee joins me for the latest on that. Shreya, over to you. What are you picking up? And I'm sure there should be many more batches that will likely arrive in the days to come.
Well, absolutely, Pooja. This is the first batch of students, and like you rightly pointed it out, extremely nice visuals that is coming in. These are students who are boarding the flight from Doha, and they will be landing in the national capital tonight around 10:15. There could be some possible delays because of airstrikes that are also affecting the sky route, is what we are given to understand. The other batch of students are some who are stuck in Qom. They are likely to be evacuated tomorrow, is what we're being told. And another batch of students who evacuated from Kirman to the Mashhad region, which is on the border of Turkmenistan, and they will be crossing over via the border route from Iran to Turkmenistan, and there they will be moving forward to India. So 2 more batch of students will be coming in, but the first batch lands today safely in the national capital.
That's a great moment to watch these students, most of them from J&K, who've been able to brought up from the conflict zone, a war zone literally right now, back to safety of their home. Now, this is what I want to tell the viewer. You need to understand how all of this pans out. Remember, most of them were in Tehran, the city where there have been strikes and bombings happening, and we've seen the casualties as well. They have been able to come out from that, evacuated to first Qom city, again in Iran, a pilgrimage town. It's fairly safe. And from there, they have been brought to the Yerevan airport. This is right at the border from where they will fly to Doha. So land borders are being used because Iranian airspace is closed off right now because of the strikes. So you can see that they have been brought to Armenia first, the Yerevan airport. From there, they will take a flight first to Doha in Qatar, and then they will board the aircraft to the national capital. So it's going to be still a long journey. I'm sure many parents are still tracking from New Delhi, whether it's J&K or other cities of the country, that is where they will be heading. About 110 students have been able to be evacuated safely anyhow. And remember, this takes a lot of effort and coordination, and to be able to do that for these young students. So that's what we'll be aiming for and tracking consistently as more of these visuals arrive in the hours to come. India is still reeling from the deadliest aviation disaster in decades, but the hunt is on. Many questions are answered about what exactly happened in that 1 minute when the aircraft took off and then the ill-fated crash that took place. It's not just about the passengers on board, but also about the ones who died who were having lunch at the medical hostel. In turns, about 270 people lost their life. Now the black box has been recovered, the voice recorder has been recovered as well. But there is a focus now on the overhaul of the engine of the aircraft. India Today tracks the investigation. Get you that big exclusive.
It has been almost a week since the fatal crash of Air India in Ahmedabad that has left over 270 dead, but India and the world still awaits the answers. As investigators dig into the data of the black box, sources have now told India Today that the focus has shifted to the right engine of the plane that was recently overhauled. India Today has learned that the right side engine was overhauled and reinstalled as recently as March 2025, just 3 months before the crash. The nearly 12-year-old Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner had also passed a comprehensive maintenance check in June 2023. Its next major inspection was scheduled for December this year. Sources also confirmed that in April, Air India raised the insurance cover for the aircraft from 750 crore rupees to 850 crore rupees. Complying with the DGCA order, Air India has so far completed comprehensive security checks of 9 of its 33 Dreamliners, with the rest to follow. Meanwhile, former Aviation Minister Praful Patel raised questions on the silence of the Singapore Airlines, highlighting that the Singapore airline was responsible for maintaining most of Air India wide-body aircraft. Patel added that current Air India CEO Campbell Wilson is a nominee of Singapore Airlines. Emotional scenes played out as the sole survivor, Vishwas Kumar, paid last tribute to his brother who died in the crash. How long before India finds out the real cause of the deadly crash? Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Joining me now is my colleague Amit Bhardwaj. He's been tracking all the latest about especially what sources are telling India Today. This is significant, remember, that was the engine replaced, changed about 3 months ago. Amit, what are you picking up about the investigation details? Because I'm trying to understand, does the aircraft, everything get a clean chit? Because then the question is still unanswered. What happened? How did the aircraft crash in the manner it did?
Pooja, you know what, we can certainly say that all these facts will come out in the days to come, especially with the decoding of the black box and the CVR, that is cockpit voice recorder. As of now, multiple angles are being taken into account, including the last maintenance and the overall, major maintenance of the craft that had happened with the AI-171, and each of these log sheets are also being looked into by the authorities, and certainly it will be, later on, once you have those data coming out of the black box as well as the CVR, we will get to know as to whether these issues were interlinked or there was something more to it. What sources have also confirmed India today, is that there was, on prima facie, there was no blast inside the craft before that crash happened in Ahmedabad at the BJ Medical College hostel. Otherwise, it would have also impacted the passenger on 11 Alpha, that is Vishwas Kumar in this particular case, and because he's walking out safely of that complex where that crash happened, we could see the ball of fire. It indicates that no blast was possibly inside that craft before the crash happened. That's what sources are indicating at, and they're also saying that there have been a lot of questions about the well-being as to how Vishwas Kumar is the only lone survivor in this particular case, despite falling from the craft to the complex ground. So sources have also told India Today, confirmed to India Today, that because Vishwas Kumar was sitting on Alpha A, he was 11 Alpha, he was able to get down, and the ground where he landed had soft soil, because of which the impact was minimum, and he did not sustain any major injury, and he could actually walk out of the complex. So more details are coming out with every passing day, Pooja, and we'll have to wait for some more time. By the time when this black box as well as the CVR data gets decoded and the agencies come back to us with concrete details.
And should the issue of maintenance, checks, protocol, all of that really need to be examined here on even more. Thank you very much, Amit Bhardwaj, for the latest on that. And I want to pick up from what Amit has said. Almost 270 people die in this ill-fated, horrific air crash, on board, on the ground. One man survives. And that man, we've all seen him by now, is walking out alive with few injuries from the crash site where there is an explosion behind him. We now have details about possibly how Vishwas Kumar Ramesh was able to survive this crash and how. Sources have told India Today that he was seated on the 11A seat. Now that has been now in public domain, but still for him to be able to walk out of the aircraft that normally when there's been an explosion. Sources already also have, however, added to us that at that juncture, when possibly the aircraft hit the building, had there been an explosion inside the aircraft, Vishwas wouldn't have been able to walk out safe, which means that the moment that the aircraft hit either a building or the ground, Vishwas was able to land in the middle of the two buildings. That his part of the aircraft was where it broke open, he fell on what was possibly soft soil, and that is when, for him, it was a safe landing, even though for 241 passengers, it meant an immediate, brutal death. At this juncture, remember, for many days, he was recovering at the hospital. This was one miraculous escape story. 270 people approximately dead, 241, all of them on board. One man survives. And this lone survivor of last week's airplane crash still is reeling under a different tragedy. The tragedy is, he may have survived. His brother was also on board. He had to be laid to rest in Diu. So Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, from recovery, went to Diu to cremate and do the last rites of his brother Ajay, who was on board the same flight but could not survive. This is a reminder of the visuals that are coming in, that he'll also have to live with this tragedy. He may have survived a miraculous escape. And speaking to India Today, all he could mention was realizing now about the tragedy that unfolded, that he has to go and conduct the funeral of his own brother. And that, remember, is also a different story. He survived, his brother did not. So the investigation in the Air India crash also, meanwhile, is deepening. What exactly happened? What about this right side engine that the experts are talking about? Amid the theories that the ram air turbine had been deployed by the aircraft during the takeoff, investigations have now also claimed that the doomed flight was on emergency power. We are quoting what the experts are telling us from the civil aviation industry, and Air India's operations have been under increased scrutiny. You must have seen in the last few days there have been an increased number of disruptions, checks, cancellations. A report on that.
It was one of the darkest days in the history of Indian aviation. Now, more details are emerging about the ill-fated Air India Flight 171, which crashed in Ahmedabad on the 12th of June. Sources have told Business Today TV that the right side engine of the aircraft, VT-A&B, had been overhauled and installed as recently as March 2025. Meanwhile, British investigators probing the crash have been cited by a publication as saying that the doomed flight was on emergency power, a finding which gives credence to theories that the ram air turbine or the RAT had been deployed by the aircraft during takeoff. And just 3 days later, a helicopter crash near Kedarnath claimed 7 lives, including 6 pilgrims. It was the 5th such incident on that route in just 6 weeks. These back-to-back accidents have put the spotlight on one of the fastest-growing sectors. In the last 2.5 years, Indian Airlines have placed record orders for nearly 1,000 aircraft to meet the rising demand. But is the sector and its regulator truly equipped to handle the surge? In 2020, India's aviation regulator, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, had 1,233 sanctioned posts. Of these, only 62% were filled. As of March 2025, the number of sanctioned posts has increased to 1,692. Yet only 52% are currently staffed. Meanwhile, after an initial probe into Air India's operations, DGCA has advised the Tata-owned airline to strictly follow regulations, enhance coordination among engineering, operations and ground handling units, and also ensure availability of adequate spares to reduce passenger delays. The regulator also recommended a real-time defect reporting mechanism to ensure timely updates across safety-critical departments. However, in a big relief, Air India's Boeing 787 fleet, the aircraft type involved in the Ahmedabad crash, was given a clean chit by the DGCA. The 787, popularly known as the Dreamliner, is Air India's long-haul workhorse and also serves its most profitable international routes. The Air India fleet currently flies 3 types of long-haul aircraft: the 787, the Boeing 777, and the newly inducted Airbus 350. Of these, the 787 accounts for over half of its wide-body aircraft fleet. The increased scrutiny has, however, heavily disrupted Air India's 787 operations, throwing its international schedule into disarray. According to DGCA data, the airline had to cancel 66 Boeing 787 flights between the 12th and the 17th of June. The crash has also created serious headwinds for Air India's ambitious transformation plans. The Tata Group had aimed for Air India and Air India Express to break even operationally by the end of this financial year, a goal now facing significant turbulence. While there is no evidence linking the crash to the airline's operational management or fleet maintenance, the reputational damage to Air India is undeniable. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
All right, big news coming in. Prime Minister Modi on the 3-nation tour that he had been. This is the last leg. He's in Croatia. That's the visual on your screen, in Zagreb specifically. Prime Minister Modi becomes the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Croatia. Bilateral talks are expected between India and Croatia that have been scheduled. But importantly, PM Modi will pay a tribute at the Homeland Memorial in Zagreb. So that's the latest visual. We'll be tracking this visit to Croatia now. Shlokas and chanting being done on the ground.